It's really nice.
It's really nice.
Hi, Alex.
Hi.
So
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being here. Would be great if we start by telling our audience why we're here today.
So look, you and I had a conversation and we wanted to do a couple of things. The first thing we wanted to do was talk about sustainability. Now, the reason we're talking about sustainability is starting this weekend in Glasgow, in Scotland, in Great Britain, we've got the UN Climate Conference, COP26. And the Ethiopian delegation will be there, being led by His Excellency the Deputy Prime Minister. We're very happy and excited to welcome them to Scotland. But this is part of a big, big event. So we've got over 120 world leaders going to Scotland. Okay. They are there to essentially try and hopefully save the planet. It's that kind of big deal. Okay. And the dream of this conference is to keep 1.5 alive. Now 1.5 is the maximum temperature that we can really imagine seeing this planet rise through global warming if we have any chance of sort of keeping the planet in the way that we like it and enjoy it and want to keep it. Survival for us, survival for our food supplies, survival for our children, survival for everything. And so this is part of a long series of conferences, but this is a big one. Because this is the one where we want countries to come forward and say, this is how we are going to reach net zero on our climate emissions, our carbon emissions.
We have different types of ham. This is a very fatty perch ham. This is a moonfish. This one is actually perch, but the texture of the fish is so similar to meat that we color it with very natural vegetables and spices to give more of a meat type of texture. Some chopped parsley, some butter, some mashed potato left over, some chopped onion and milk. So what do we start with?
So we're going to take a chunk of this, and then I think for a bit of fun, and this is completely creative.
Would you like me to slice it or just keep it whole?
I would keep it, actually I'll just keep it as whole as that. And we're going to put that into some milk. We're going to warm up the milk. We're going to put the parsley stalks in, the bay leaf. I think we'll use a bit more milk. And the milk is basically the broth for the soup. So we're going to just leave that for about 3 minutes. Okay. Once it starts boiling. All right. We'll turn it down when it boils. All right. And just allow it to simmer. And then we'll take it off and we'll leave it for 5 minutes.
So let's add a bit of everything. So some of the arowana, some of the perch, some of the adok liquid one, which is the moonfish in this case.
But I love this because, as I was saying to you earlier, this is the color of the fish I had every week.
All right, so I got the butter heating up. Let me put some onion, I guess.
Perfect.
So it's pretty much there. As you can see, we have one bit who just fell off. So I think it's pretty much...
Looks like a beautiful piece of fish.
Beautiful piece of fish, beautifully cooked as well. So this is called telet. This is Ethiopian patterns. There you go.
Right, so look, this is what we have here. We have our creation, Ethiopian fish in here. We've got sustainable ingredients. It's going to be delicious, I hope. The dish is called cullen skink. Today we're going to call it Ethiopian cullen skink. Why? Because all of the fish in here is from Ethiopia. Okay. I think it's going to taste delicious.
It is actually nice. It's really nice.
It's really nice.
I think a lot of people forget that eating is also a pleasure, and pleasure comes from diversifying your taste. There's so much flavor in different type of food and different type of flavor that you can explore on a daily basis. I think it's important not only for Ethiopians, but for the world, for the global population, to explore different tastes so that they understand the story behind it, understand the nutrition behind it, the way it's consumed, so that it becomes more of an artistic expression that you get to consume, rather than a very stubborn type of diet focused on basic habits.
And you see how easy it was to make this. I mean, we could have made it even more quickly if we wanted to. I love food such as beef as much as the next person. I enjoy eating all kinds of food, but I must say that I'm changing my behaviours more and more, because actually it's more about diversity. So I eat vegetarian food now 4 or 5 times a week. Why? Because I think it's just absolutely delicious, and I feel quite good after eating it. If I ate beef 5 to 7 times a week, then I think I really wouldn't feel that great. If you throw in fish to the mixture, and you can do this over a course of 7 days of the week, you can eat sustainably, you can enjoy yourself from the diversity and also from the nutritional benefits.
Absolutely.
And this country's changing so fast, and most of it's changing very, very well for the future in a really positive direction. And if we're talking about climate, you know, the countries such as Ethiopia, they didn't cause the climate problem in the first place. And we do recognize that in countries such as mine, which essentially created the Industrial Revolution. And I think the way that the climate conversation is going is it recognizes the countries who have caused the problem. And so those countries have to move fastest to change their economies. And it's good to see that my country has got a net zero plan, and it's worked out, you know, how it can get to net zero. So countries like Ethiopia didn't cause it. They are the ones who are going to suffer significantly as well if we do go beyond 1.5 degrees, and even if we do go to 1.5 degrees. But the issue is that we need all countries to play their part, because you can't have some countries continuing to put carbon into the atmosphere while others do not. And so this is why this is actually a global effort.
You're absolutely right. You know, one of the hardest part of this conversation is the fear factor. Is we haven't caused it much, but it's a country that is developing and going to acquire and consume more meat. But again, this is whether we like it or not. If we go beyond that 1.5, we're all going to perish. Exactly. So it's not really fair, for sure. But instead of seeing it from a fair perspective, maybe exploring different tastes can be beneficial on desire level, but more on an expression level, more of a refined exploring level. Yeah. Me, when I was going into culinary school, I didn't like any cheese, I'll be honest with you. I did not, in France. But once we studied different types of cheese in France, I ended up loving that product because I knew the story behind it, how it was made, how it was consumed, how it was tasted. I think the world needs to explore the different cuisine at hand so that each can be consumed with dignity and grace.
Absolutely. And there are some countries in the world who are almost predominantly vegetarian. I've lived in India before. You know, India is basically a vegetarian country across the board. There are some countries which favour meat more. I think what we're talking about is learning as much as we can from these different cultures to ensure that our impact on the planet is minimised as much as possible. And I think it is easy to do, but it requires creativity, and it requires people like you to sort of lead the way and show how things can be done at a local level. I could eat this all the time.
No, I might
so
have
for those of you from the Ethiopian delegation who are going to Glasgow in the coming days to try and negotiate a good outcome, please get to a restaurant, try some Cullen skink, and then when you come back, we'll try and make it Ethiopian for you.
Absolutely. I'll be ready for you guys. And since you just came as the last point, we did open up butcheries, and the whole point is we want to go from farm to table. That's something also I'd like to convey to my fellow business owners and restaurantees, so that they can see the product not end product only, but exploring it throughout, see every aspect and minimize wastage as well.
Yeah. Well, it's fantastic. I mean, I try and buy my meat nowadays from sustainable sources where I know the animals were treated in a positive way. In the UK, we've got a really good record of protecting our animals as they grow up. We try and spurn intensive pig farming, for example, which is commonplace in many places. There's no reason to treat animals badly. There's no reason to harm or hurt. You just need to pay a fair price. And we need to recognize, I think, the carbon impact of meat nowadays. Now, the more you do locally from farm to plate, the more you're reducing the carbon impact, because it's not traveling thousands of kilometers to get there.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for this wonderful recipe.
and for our audience who are listening to this.